Hello and welcome, friends. So today we're going to talk about something very fascinating, something very interesting. So the question you need to ask yourself is, let's say you are facing an audience and you want to wow them with your speech, or you want to create an amazing result for yourself when you're facing your clients, anything that you're doing where you're presenting your thoughts. How do you do that? Well, there are many ways of doing this, and I've also spoken about this elaborately in my previous videos. But there is a simple technique that you could use, which is very handy. I have been trying to use this all the time. And it's a technique that was suggested by the Greek philosopher Aristotle. It's called ethos, pathos, and logos. Now, that sounds like Greek, isn't it? But it's a very, very simple technique. And the fact is that you can all use it readily without a shadow of a doubt. So what is this technique? Let's understand ethos, pathos, logos in further depth, and you can use it right away. That's my promise to you. So when we talk about ethos, we are trying to build trust and credibility in front of our listeners. Let's say, for example, when you watch television, you often hear these dentists who make the claim that this is the best toothpaste that you could ever use. All your cavity problems, all your gum bleeding will stop if you use this particular toothpaste. And guess what? Majority people believe in what they say. Why? Because it's coming from a dentist. It's an expert in that domain, someone who understands dental problems better than anyone else is suggesting you to use a toothpaste. So who would argue or who would doubt that? So when a dentist talks about a toothpaste, it's an expert who makes that suggestion, and therefore you're likely to believe it. So credibility comes from expertise, it comes from knowledge, it comes from professionalism, and it also comes from dressing in some way or the other. Okay. For example, sometimes it can also come from the designation that you possess. Or for that matter, when you see a doctor wearing a doctor's coat, or you see a civil engineer talking about which cement to buy, all of these are examples of ethos. Now, the fact is, when we deliver a speech or we are giving a presentation, it's important that we establish our credibility, we establish our credentials. How do we do that? Well, there are a couple of things that you can do. For example, you can talk to the audience about your background, where you talk about your experience that you possess. You could say that, look, I've worked with similar clients in the past, and therefore I really know what are you expecting from me at this particular stage. Similarly, it can come from authority. If you have been holding a particular position, like say you are the vice president, you're the senior manager in a particular domain for a long period of time, that can also help you establish trust and credibility in the eyes of your audience. So ethos is a very, very powerful tool whenever you deliver a speech or you deliver a presentation. Next comes pathos. What is pathos? Well, if ethos is about credibility, pathos is all about emotions. So whenever you deliver a speech, you're talking to human beings, and therefore it's important for you to connect with them and establish that emotional connect with your audience. And that happens when you use pathos in your delivery of speech. Now, how do we do that? For example, when you are talking to people about the importance of safe driving, right? You might say, is there anyone here who has ever met with a road accident, or somebody who has lost a near or dear one to a road accident? And that kind of a statement will make people think. They will have to use their memory, they will have to use their senses. And then when you talk about the importance of road safety while driving, how is it important for you to ensure that you drive safely, you don't drink and drive, and all those elements come into picture. So you're able to establish a strong emotional connect with your audience while you're using pathos. Now, why is pathos important and why does it work? Because when you're talking to human beings, only merely talking to them from the position of power or credibility may not be sufficient, and therefore it's important for you to build that emotional connect with your audience. And emotions could be any kind of emotion. It need not always be sad emotion. It could be humor, it could be joy, it could be any experience that can help you build an emotional connect with your respective audience. And then lastly, we have logos. Now, what does logos stand for? Logos stands for logic, facts, and figures. Now, many a times when you talk things, but you do not use facts and figures to convince your point of view, people say, you know what, I don't believe you because there is no claim, no facts and figures to back what you are telling me. And that is why if you see a lot of advertisements also tend to depend on the logos factor. For instance, when you see a beauty soap, it typically would say that we asked 10 women to rate this soap and all of them rated it 10 out of 10. Now, that's a fact. That's something which talks about research. That's something which talks about rationality. And therefore, more people are likely to believe in it because it is backed by facts and figures. So in your speech delivery as well, ask yourself, what are the facts and figures that I could use so that I can establish that kind of rational connect with my audience, especially when you're delivering a speech in the context of business to your clients or to the top management, or within the organization, you're talking to some of your colleagues and you want to convince them about your point of view, then it's always a great idea to also back your claim with logic, rationality, facts, and figures. Right. So these are the three things that you may want to use. What are they again? Ethos, pathos, and logos. Ethos stands for knowledge, credibility, and building trust. Whereas pathos stands for developing and connecting with your people through emotions. And logos stands for logic, facts and figures, and rationality. Now, what is a good speech? A good speech which has got a good blend of all the three. So rather than leaning on any one of them, it is always advisable that you use a mix of all the three so that you're able to create that wow, that amazing effect when you deliver a speech or a presentation in front of your intended audience. So try this formula, ethos, pathos, and logos, and then you might take some time to thank Mr. Aristotle for this wonderful technique that he developed ages ago, which is relevant even today. Thank you so much for listening and have a great time using ethos, pathos, and logos.